DJ Vlad, also known as Vlad TV, has been in hot water lately after some comments that he made during the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. It all started when Vlad tweeted a, let's be honest, pretty dorky complaint when he said, "Kendrick's Not Like Us needed a better mix. It takes away from the song." Then a woman by the name of Morgan Jenkins responded saying, "You are white, this is a black folk affair." They argued back and forth for a while, with Vlad tagging Princeton, the school she worked at, insinuating that he was going to get her fired by contacting them. This upset a lot of people, so much so that Vlad tried to later apologize, but the people weren't having it. Judging by all of the replies and the ratios, the general consensus was not in Vlad's favor. But this is far from Vlad's first controversy, and there is one big reason that everybody hates DJ Vlad. So let's check it out. If you don't know DJ Vlad, this is him.
You know, when you listen to your music, there's a lot of street stories.
Well, not that guy. The voice was DJ Vlad. That was the person he was interviewing. DJ Vlad is an interviewer and the owner of Vlad TV, a hip-hop media outlet. But he's actually been in the game for quite a while. Despite coming from Ukraine as a young kid, Vlad said that he was always drawn to hip-hop when he moved to the US. He said he felt like an outcast since he came to the US during the Cold War, and that hip-hop seemed like a place where outcasts could fit in.
You know, hip-hop was kind of like really like an outcast kind of culture during that time, and I just kind of got drawn to it, you know, between the music and the breakdancing. It just became my thing, and it just became a lifelong.
First, Vlad started off getting really into breakdancing since he saw it on TV. Then he got into making beats, but he wasn't that good, so he started DJing. After college, he launched his website djvlad.com and started posting his mixtapes on the internet. While making mixtapes, he made one with DJ Green Lantern and DJ Dirty Harry, and it was called Rap Phenomenon 2. And it was fairly popular. He also started selling hip-hop DVDs around this time as well. Vlad even directed a film called Ghost Ride the Whip, which featured people like Mac Dre, E40, MC Hammer, Sway, and many more. He also directed an episode of American Gangster called Romper Room Gang, which was an episode about bank robbers from the Bay Area. And Mac Dre was in it as well. It was actually pretty crazy because Vlad was doing so many different things trying to get his money. But in January of 2008, when YouTube was just in its infant stages, Vlad decided to pursue YouTube as they had just announced their partnership program. Vlad had already been doing interviews with artists on his YouTube, but after seeing that he could make money from it, he went full steam ahead with his interviews. He was knocking out interviews with people like Busta Rhymes, Dipset, Akon, Plies, Lil Wayne, Big Boy, and more. Because of all of his industry connections from DJing, selling mixtapes, and all that other stuff, he was able to lock in some great interviews. He seemed like a guy who was truly passionate about hip-hop with all of his endeavors and collaborations. Vlad even said that his purpose in making interviews is to capture our era of music and solidify it in history.
You know, it's important. At one point, all of us are going to be gone. And what we're going to leave behind is these videos and these conversations and our thoughts. And I'm trying to capture a lot of that. This is really my bigger purpose in what I do. It's not just how much money can I make right now. It's like, what am I actually capturing?
He had also clarified that he felt he was a guest in the House of Hip Hop since he's white.
I had done an interview years before where they asked me about white people's role in hip hop. And I said, I consider myself a guest in the House of Hip Hop.
Oh, wow.
Same way. I said, I felt lucky that I could be doing hip hop as a job.
He's made it seem like he is in the hip hop space with the most honorable intentions, but not everyone sees it that way, especially because of some incidents that have happened throughout his career. Vlad has actually been getting flack ever since he's gotten into the game. One of his first major controversies is when he started going hard with the interviews back in 2008. On August 15th of 2008, Vlad filed a $4 million lawsuit against Rick Ross, and he was claiming that Ricky Rose had some guys beat him up. Vlad's attorney Brian Kaplan said Rick Ross orchestrated a brutal attack upon DJ Vlad, carried out at his direction by his accomplices, in retribution for media coverage of Rick Ross's prior life as a correctional officer. See, if you didn't know, Rick Ross used to be a correctional officer, and at the time he seemed to be pretty ashamed of it, which I actually did a whole video on if you want to check it out after this one. But yeah, I'm guessing Ricky was pretty upset that Vlad kept pressing him on that question in an interview, along with asking other rappers about it in interviews as well.
Trick Daddy recently accused you of working as a prison guard at one point, Rick. Is there any truth to that?
No, that's not true. That's crazy. It's not true, man, but, you know, dog a sucker, and he mad that, you know, I done came out of nowhere and just, took over.
Yeah, Vlad got his ass beat by Ricky's henchman with a cut that had him needing stitches below his eye, 3 facial fractures, a corneal abrasion, which I don't even know what that means, and nerve damage. But Vlad decided to sue him for $4 million, saying in the suit, the attack was launched by Ross in an attempt to stifle Vlad's journalistic reporting and freedom of expression. The suit also said that Ross painstakingly created his public persona to be that of a major drug dealer and gangster, but is in reality a former correctional officer. So Vlad suing someone in a hip-hop beef had to have upset some people, while others probably recognize that he's just an interviewer and isn't trying to fight people, like Angela Yee, who interviewed him right after, although I am surprised he didn't bust out any of that Russian strength in his scuffle. And Vlad ended up eventually winning $300,000 in the lawsuit. And while this incident alone did not turn too many people away from Vlad, there were many more over the years that upset viewers. For a long time, DJ Vlad was able to lock in some great interviews throughout his career with many great artists. He seemed to be well respected by people within the game, like his friendship with Lord Jamar, for example, or his frequent interviews with other artists. But over time, his controversies would add up and the favor would seem to shift. In 2016, for example, DJ Vlad was involved in another major controversy. In March of 2016, rapper Bankroll Fresh was tragically shot and killed outside of a music studio. Shortly after this, DJ Vlad interviewed Bankroll's friend No Plug, in which he admitted some involvement in his friend's death.
So the shooting happened, you drove off.
Yeah.
You met with your lawyer, and then you turned yourself in?
Yeah. I went around from that shit. I got goddamn, I was whatever was gonna happen. I know I was ready for whatever situation. If I had to take the shit to trial, like my lawyer, he's the best lawyer in goddamn Atlanta, Georgia, man. You know what I'm saying? Ash Joseph, man. I love him to death. He made me comfortable with the situation, you know what I'm saying?
After this interview went up, Bankroll's uncle made a statement about how upset he was. He said, "You disrespectful culture vulture. I offered you to talk to my family when my nephew was first killed, but you gave this coward a forum. My nephew is dead and you're having a light-humored conversation with an alleged killer like it's just another interview." Eventually, the case was closed, with the police saying the entourage that No Plug was with shot back at Bankroll in self-defense. But the way in which Vlad interviewed the alleged killer was upsetting to some viewers. The interview also had comments like "Officer Vlad reporting for duty," and "This is some of Vlad's best police work." This got him promoted to detective. The Officer Vlad comments were nothing new, but incidents like this really had people thinking he was trying to get people in trouble with his interviews. And I will say, a lot of his interviews do kind of give off that police interview vibe, especially when he's asking all these questions about crime-related issues. A lot of other people were upset about this too, like Charlemagne the God, who, although he said he was friends with Vlad, thought that Vlad was just trying to make a quick buck off of Bankroll's death.
And I don't know him personally, but that stuff when he put old boy talking about murdering a kid, I was like, this is shit that don't need to be on.
There you go,
like,
there you go.
After that,
and by the way, that led to real shit happening in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That I know of. So it's just like, no, I don't know of.
See, but that right there is my problem with Vlad. It leads to real shit happening, and then your disposition is very different.
Another person that DJ Vlad has had a pretty big beef with was Joe Budden. Vlad had a history of instigating issues between Joe Budden and others, like when he instigated the beef between rapper Ransom and Joe, which at some points even got physical. One viewer on Reddit said, "Vlad is a leech. He even said at the time Joe was dissing Ransom, he didn't even know who Ransom was. So why would you contact a stranger over some beef unless you're looking to instigate?" Vlad justifies it by trying to claim he's a news agency, but he knew it'd be a viral moment. It should always be fuck Vlad. Joe Budden even confronted Vlad on Shade 45 about how he conducts his channel.
You're much brighter than the people that are on Vlad TV. Much brighter. You're much brighter than Ransom and all the idiots that were on that video. You're much brighter than a lot of people I see on this. So you already know what you are doing when you put a camera in front of our will and a few other places that capitalize off black niggas being ignorant will showcase it.
Okay.
No? So you're not to be held accountable for that?
Going forward, Vlad had brought up Joe many times and tried to make him look bad, which made many people think he had an agenda. Vlad even interviewed Joe's ex-girlfriend right after their breakup, and he was basically begging for her to make Joe look bad.
Put hands on each other?
We had our moments, Vlad.
Really?
We had our moments, yeah. I wasn't an easy person to deal with, but we definitely had our moments.
So I mean, based on the answer,
we had our moments.
It got physical at certain points.
We had our moments.
I mean, were the police ever called? The police were called.
No, because if the police were called, you probably would have been trying to interview us.
The police were never called.
We had our moments.
But stuff got broken.
we had our moments.
I mean, that clip was pretty rough, man. She clearly didn't want to talk about it, and Vlad was damn near on his knees begging for her to say something that would incriminate Joe. I mean, the police comments are there for a reason. And another big reason people call Vlad the police is because of an incident with Casanova 2 Times. Casanova 2 Times is an artist that Vlad has interviewed many times on his channel.
So, you go to prison, but you don't calm down. How many people did you cut in prison?
3 to 4. That I got tickets on, like paperwork on.
But really, it's more.
Now, obviously, talking about crimes you have already served for is one thing, because you can't get into trouble for something you're already convicted for. But Vlad's saying, but really it's more, is where the problem comes in. Because Casanova is liable to get into trouble for saying anything he says he did that he hasn't been convicted of doing. And that seems to be what happened, as when Casanova was later indicted on RICO charges, his interview with Vlad seemed to be referenced in the report. It said, Senior has also personally committed acts of violence. In addition to his current open robbery charge, Senior has twice been convicted of robbery in the first degree. In public interviews, he has admitted to stabbing inmates while incarcerated on those charges. The article this is in also points out that the Casanova interview was literally titled, Casanova 2 Times on Stabbing 12 Inmates, Beating Cellmates, Doing 7.5 Years. So clearly this was alluding to Vlad's interview. Now obviously you can't put all of the blame on Vlad. The guys he interviews agree to talk to him, have full control over what they say, and should know better than to say something incriminating. But we've also seen Vlad pry throughout this video and put people in awkward situations, so there definitely could be some moral discrepancies. There are a lot of other people in the hip-hop community who have issues with Vlad for a variety of reasons. For example, he had issues with Durk because Lil Durk mentioned he was having a kid, but then asked Vlad to cut it from the interview because he would rather keep it private. Then Vlad released the interview as it is, which led to Durk dissing him in a song. Vlad also had a brief clash on Twitter with Vince Staples. He had a falling out with one of his seemingly good friends and OGs in the game, Lord Jamar.
Oh shit, I didn't want him asking every fucking person that he interviews, what do you think about what Lord Jamar said about Eminem? What do you think about what Lord Jamar said about white people against...
He had another Twitter feud with Eneli Chapa, making fun of him for saying he cured cancer, which honestly is probably deserved. But Vlad has had many feuds, beefs, controversies, and more throughout his entire career. If I went into every single one on this video, it'd probably be like 3 hours. But all of these have stemmed from one main issue, the issue that has caused everybody to hate Vlad TV. The thing that has got Vlad in the most hot water is his interview style. And I'm not talking about the fact that his interviews feel like an awkward scene from a porn video. I'm talking about how Vlad tends to ask questions about very serious, controversial, and even legal issues in his videos quite often. And Vlad is very open about this. He says that he likes to talk about the serious big news rather than asking the lighthearted questions or doing promo.
I just always felt like these interviews were a lot of times more PR than they were real interviews. Like I looked at 60 Minutes. Like, okay, a 60-minute interview changes legislation. That's what I was trying to accomplish. I wasn't trying to just talk about someone's new album and what kind of jewelry they got on. You know, even though we do cover that, it's like there's a bigger purpose. I'll have a conversation with them beforehand. I say, hey, you know, I had heard that X, Y, and Z happened to you. Do you want to talk about it? And they're like, nah, I don't really want to fuck with this. So it's like, all right, cool. We're gonna let it go. But it's also not gonna be a cakewalk. You know, when you sit down with me, it's not just gonna be, you know, all promo and, you know, like lighthearted. It's like, yo, when we sit down, you know, we're gonna talk about the real shit, because if we don't, it's not going to get the views and the impact. It's gonna be a waste of everyone's time.
Vlad has been pretty open about his objective with his interviews. He even mentioned one of the main reasons he decided to go this route in an interview with Adam 22.
I directed an episode of American Gangster, actually on Mac Dre and the Romper Room Gang. So I got to sort of put together this kind of a mini documentary on this artist with a serious criminal element to it. And you know, it was such a dope piece when it came out.
Vlad wanted his show to focus more on the negative, hard-hitting side of rap. The beefs, the drama, the legal issues, the crime, all of these things. And while negativity clearly sells, The problems people have with Vlad is the impact that he has on the community. When interviewing artists who have problems with one another, like we have seen in this video, Vlad has the power to instigate the beef even further. Vlad's platform has the power to indict people. And these are the issues that people have with him and his interview style. Journalist Miles Tanzer was spot on back in 2014, calling Vlad hip-hop's reigning beef maker. He continued in his article to talk about a Vlad conversation with Charlemagne the God, in which Vlad said, "Papoose called out Jay-Z for flinching during the fight with Solange. What do you think about that?" Miles said, "It was the ultimate Vlad question, one that asked for comment about a beef between two rappers, and also just happens to implicitly weigh morals and masculinity. Is a man wrong or right for remaining stone cold in the face of attack from a woman?" The writer does a good job at covering how Vlad can ask such pointed questions that can cause controversy from the person he's talking to, although Charlemagne in this instance is also known for his fair share of controversy. Rod Digga brought up an important question to Vlad when it came to how he uses his platform to highlight negativity.
I have a slight issue with your platform as a whole.
Okay.
I feel like it perpetuates a lot of the nonsense that we are trying to put a halt to in hip-hop. The two times that I've been invited to Vlad in my career, the first time was after I made a diss track towards Tyler the Creator.
Okay.
I did come for that. I came for that.
Okay, I didn't do the interview though, did I?
No, you didn't do the interview.
Yeah.
I did speak on that.
Okay, yeah, that's why I forgot. My bad. Yeah,
No, that's cool.
You did come. My bad.
But the second time I was invited was after a little, thing went viral. Some comments I made about Iggy Azalea.
She pointed out how she has only been invited twice to be interviewed after dealing with 2 negative incidents, but not once throughout her long career to talk about her successes or her career in general. And this situation isn't just applicable to her, but many others. She essentially was accusing him of fueling the flames of drama, beef, and things along those lines, rather than interviewing artists for their art. Of course though, Vlad has denied most of these accusations. He did admit in response to Rod Digga that he looks at the numbers, sees what does well, and tries to make more interviews like that, which of course is understandable, but it doesn't always sit right with people. He also denied ever asking about anyone's open cases, and referenced this in his interview with DaBaby.
Now, I know everyone's gonna want me to ask about the Walmart situation, but we actually looked into it, and we saw that it's still an open case.
Right.
So therefore, I'm not gonna ask any questions about it whatsoever.
However, you can also compare that clip to the one with Casanova and see that regardless of whether or not there's an open case, the prying still happens. Not to mention the title of this video was Vlad brings up DaBaby killing a man at Walmart. It just made it seem like he brought it up just to say, see, I'm not that bad. I say all of this to say, despite Vlad denying most of these claims, the people have proof to back up most of what they say, and their issues with Vlad are understandable. But that leaves us with one more question. After Vlad's latest incident, will his career survive? Vlad's latest incident was a pretty huge event on Twitter. After tweeting about the mix on Not Like Us, like I said, a Princeton professor responded saying, "You are white, this is a black folk affair." They went back and forth with Vlad saying, "Don't try and change your words now. I'll be reaching out to Princeton about this on Monday." After some more back and forth, Vlad said, "Good luck being a professor at Princeton again. I doubt the university supports their faculty telling non-black students to shut the fuck up about anything hip-hop related because of their skin color." They continued going back and forth, and Vlad later apologized, saying, "Since it's Monday, let me clear the air and state that I never had any intention of filing a complaint to Princeton for former professor Morgan Juergens saying that white people aren't allowed to comment on Kendrick Lamar's music. She trolled me and I trolled back. At the end of the day, it created an interesting discussion about race relations in America. I will be discussing it further in my future interviews." She responded saying, "A lie. He tagged my employer multiple times with the intention to professionally harm me. I didn't troll. I centered black people in a discussion on hip hop and told him to stand down because it's not his space. He's backtracking because he miscalculated. By the way, stop contacting my family," which I think is interesting to note because she made it seem like Vlad was so upset he was contacting her family, which if that's true, it's pretty crazy. Mark Lamont Hill also chimed in saying, "No, Vlad, this doesn't clear the air. You're literally arguing that you were weaponizing your power and privilege to threaten a black woman's job. This is Karen shit. Vlad responded by making fun of him, to which Mark said, "These types of responses are why people don't think you move in good faith." This whole ordeal showed the majority of people siding with Mark and Morgan and arguing against Vlad, calling him all sorts of things like a culture vulture or a Karen. And the ratios make that pretty evident. And after the way he was acting on Twitter, I wouldn't be surprised if this controversy just added more fuel to the flames of the DJ Vlad hatred. This was such a huge deal that it even had people like Charlemagne and Andrew Schultz talking about it. So is Vlad TV really a fed and a culture vulture, or has he earned his place in the game? Well, that's for the folks in the comments to decide. Regardless, I honestly and personally don't think incidents like this will ever stop his outlet. The content he makes isn't centered around him, and there is clearly an audience for these dramatic, instigative, and sometimes morbid interviews. And while that may not be the best, for now, that seems to be the world that we live in.